Hi, this is Frank Schaefer, and I am this morning juggling a new puppy called Zip, my coffee mug, and uh, shooting this little video. But I've been reading the headlines in both the Washington Post and the New York Times this morning, have headlines something to the effect that evangelical leaders are worried about the name, the label evangelical, and are seeking a new label post evangelical support for Roy Moore. Well, I want to note a couple things. Mark Galli, the editor of Christianity Today, last time I crossed paths with him is when I was in a movie called Hellbound that interviewed people about their various views of hell, in which, of course, I do not believe, because I don't believe that God would burn, as it were, his new puppy, because this puppy messed up one time in my house yesterday. I don't think I would burn my grandchildren if they called me the wrong name. But Mark Galli wrote a book defending hell and saying that evangelicals had to believe in it, and that if they didn't, they were no longer Christians. You know, when a guy like Mark wants to change his label, thinking that's the problem with white evangelical Christianity, this is like deciding that you call woman abuse or wife beating correction or strenuous dialogue. Labels aren't the problem when it comes to abusing women, which, by the way, evangelicalism has done throughout the centuries by telling women that they literally interpret what Paul says when he tells women to shut up and be quiet and stand in church and not speak. The problem with evangelical Christianity is that it is stupid, and that people who go in bright come out stupid in the end. Folks like C.S. Lewis, or my wonderful late father Francis Schaeffer, who should have been an art historian, by the way, as I talk about in my book, Letter to Lucy, a manifesto of creative redemption for the age of Trump, fascism, and lies. So for all my old evangelical friends, and when the New York Times did an article on me about my book, my memoir, Crazy for God, they said that I came from evangelical royalty, and so evangelicals were shocked when I, the heir apparent to a thriving evangelical ministry started by my father, Francis Schaeffer, walked away. Well, I walked away not because I was embittered or angry or somebody had treated me wrong. Quite the opposite. I was making fistfuls of money. There was more money on our book tables at our seminars where 16 and 20,000 people showed up in any given night than I make in a year, literally now as a painter. You can see some of my work behind me, or as a writer of books like Letter to Lucy. But we're doing fine. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that earning an honest dollar as a writer is not where the money is. The money is in the big-time God business. So my question for Mark Galli and the other evangelicals who think their solution to having backed an alleged pedophile and a liar and serial molester and assaulter and criminal assaulter of women, self-admitted criminal assaulter of women, grabbing women when they don't ask to be grabbed, Donald Trump, is this. First of all, why didn't you write your article a year ago when 83% of your confrères, your brothers and sisters in Christ, voted for Donald Trump? Why wait a year until you're actually backing a pedophile? I mean, if you have to fall that far, you're somewhat discredited already. It's like a Nazi coming along and saying, well, gassing Jews is okay, but now that we are torturing them before we gas them, I guess I'm stepping off this boat. So let me just say something to my old evangelical friends. Your problem is not a label. Mark Galli and the editors of Christianity Today can sit around and kick around new names, biblical Christian, follower of Jesus. Go on, be my guest, keep trying. Until you stop believing in a literal interpretation of the Bible, for instance, that Jesus is on his way back, and so Jerusalem has to be the capital of Israel, otherwise Jesus can't come back and fulfill the end-time prophets, and we all get lifted to heaven magically while the world goes into tribulation, and only 144,000 Jews survive, and the rest all have to die. Nice kind of idea that. Always makes me wonder what Jews have in mind embracing evangelicals as their brothers and sisters in Zionism, but that's a footnote. The problem is stupidity. Either stupid people become evangelicals, or once they are evangelical, they have enough dumb ideas of literal interpretations of the Bible drummed into their head, so they wind up voting for Donald Trump. They wind up backing a Roy Moore because he's sufficiently xenophobic and anti-Muslim and racist to suit them. The evangelical movement includes the white school movement and the last backers of segregation. The evangelical movement produced pastors who justified not just slavery, but would stand around offering a prayer before a lynching in the South, not many years ago. The white evangelical movement is a bankrupt, corrupt, nihilistic movement dedicated to fomenting chaos and disorder unless it can get its way on everything from who bakes cakes for gay couples to if women are allowed to have abortions, to ideas about the earth and global warming and climate change not being real because God wouldn't allow it and it's not in the Bible. This is nonsense. They think Donald Trump was sent by God to appoint justices that will vote their way. They think the Republican Party is now a kind of a religious cult, or they behave that way, that they have to be loyal to, up into including Donald Trump and Roy Moore. And I was there at the beginning. My dad and I, Francis Schaeffer and I, helped found the evangelical pro-life movement. In fact, we argued with the then editors of Christianity Today, who were more liberal and open-minded then than they are now, about the fact that because they weren't pro-life and anti-abortion, they were no longer Christians, and they eventually came to us. We argued with Billy Graham, who was pro-choice when Roe v. Wade came down, with Dr. Criswell, who was the head of the Southern Baptist Convention and pastor of First Baptist in Dallas, who was pro-choice. You know, evangelicals have always believed in stupid things, but they've gotten dumber. They become more and more reactionary. So go ahead, change your labels. But really, folks out there, what we need to do is beat the evangelical vote in 2018. Thrash these idiots, hope that some of their young people peel away and find reason, believe in science, fact, and truth. You want to know why they are such suckers for Donald Trump and his idea of alt-facts and alt-reality? It's because their whole theology is alt-facts. Listen, I'll just put it this way. If you grow up in a faith where you believe in a literal Noah's Ark, that packed full of little animals like this so there'd still be creatures on the earth, but you don't believe in climate change because you've swallowed the lines from the Koch brothers and all these other people who say it's not real, and you're already in the mindset of anything the world says, anything that science says, evolution, sexuality, human rights is not real, only my Bible, my Bible, my Bible. The Bible is a book of mythology. Get it through your head. It's not true in the sense you mean true. It has spiritual wisdom. It has guidance. I base a lot of my life on the teachings of Jesus, but that's a choice because I like those ethics. And some good things came out of it. The Enlightenment, the Renaissance are not possible without Christian ethics. Voltaire and the other Enlightenment leaders drew on Christian ethics to condemn the church itself for being inconsistent with them. In the same way that today we condemn evangelicals for backing a pedophile who are not actually listening to the teachings of Jesus. But the Bible, in the sense evangelicals mean it, is not true. Your brains are shot. You can't see the difference between a Donald Trump and a Roy Moore and a decent candidate because you have damaged your neurological pathways by addiction to certainty for things that don't exist. So relabel all you want, Mark, and the rest of you, but what you really need to do is sit down and wonder whether you're going to waste the rest of your lives chasing this insane stupidity called literal biblical Christianity. Thank you. My name is Frank Schaeffer.